Big breaking seas on the shore there, outgoing tide off to starboard with stand-up breaking waves, super dangerous bar over there, lumpy seas everywhere. I've got owner and designer Jason with me at the in the navigator's seat, just giving me any safety notifications, and we're just going to run this boat through some waves. I love having opportunities like this to test boats in real sea states. You can see I got my life jacket on today because this is a very dangerous sea state, potentially. And where are we? We're essentially in the Southern Ocean. We are just off Melbourne, Port Phillip Bay, the exit to Port Phillip Bay, where you have a huge body of water ripping out at speed into the ocean through a shallow exit. I'm at the Tasman 80, and this is a real test. We've done our best to get the drone shots for you today, and we're going to do all the fuel flows and the numbers when we get back inshore, and because I just want to talk to you about the sea state and how freaking safe and comfortable I feel on this thing. Big waves building. I'm going to peel into them now, and then I'm actually going to bounce through a couple and get out of here. I'll bounce through this one here and peel off, because there's a bank just over here which I want to avoid. And now we're going to run down swells. I might keep it off by quarter, averaging 19 knots. Diesel shaft drive, Australian design, finished here in Victoria. This thing is actually making me feel so incredibly safe in conditions that anyone would be wary of. But we are cruising at 21 knots. I've got more power to play with. The stability on this thing is predictable. So if you've driven any boat in rough seas and you know what angle of attack the boat likes or doesn't like relative to the sea, you are going to have an understanding of what your boat can allow you to do. And my feeling on this Tasman 80 is that your area of operations is going to be really wide. We've got long range, we've got incredible seakeeping, and this thing is not built like, this is not a production boat. This feels semi-custom, built like the little brick shit house. I love it. I really love it. Oh my God. So we're going to go inshore from here. It's actually quite challenging to film content like this in big seas, catching the drone, setting up the cameras. So we're going to do all of that now, and then we will put the boat on the trailer, we'll drop the anchor, and we'll bring you guys along for the ride. But I'm also going to cut to some of the shots that we got exiting the middle of the bar through some big waves that were bigger than the boat, okay? And we just walloped our way through there, safe, secure, just peeling away again. I'm just trying to stay in this one particular area. Took a great big wave over the boat, not a problem, not a rattle. No feeling of insecurity. Some boats you do feel that way, okay? Some boats will flex. They're designed for the Mediterranean. A lot of boats on my channel are designed for the Mediterranean, and that's fine. That's a big market. That's not this boat. All right, breaking waves, we'll stay away from them. Okay, we're gonna have to pick our way back in through this bar. I'll need Jason's assistance for that. See you on the inside.
I'm a sailor, I'm not a journalist. 30 years boating, power and sail, and 20 years selling boats. But now all I do is make unbiased boating test videos for you, basically to help yourself. No sales pitches and no paid advertorials.
Okay, we've come back inshore, guys, but you may or may not be able to tell through the drone pics that it's not flat water. We've got an outgoing tide running at about 4 knots at the moment. So we're just going to take the boat up through the rev range, talk to you about the fuel consumption, and then we're going to do it in both directions because of the tidal flow. We've got a big oil tanker coming behind us, but he's not going to get in our way, so let's just get moving. All right, so coming up through 2,000 revs, just going to get the boat up and moving. Lots of power, she really lurches onto the plane. Directional stability is great. I've got the zip wakes on auto. I'm just actually going to leave them on auto during this test because I've got enough to concentrate on. And I'm sitting at 2,800 revs there, giving me a speed return of 24 knots. The fuel flow is just settling at the moment, and we're not in flat water, but I'm seeing about 39 litres. I'm actually just going to back that power off and just feel that through. And that's giving me 2,500. I want to try and see 2.6, 21 knots at 33 litres. Remembering I'm going with it, I'm just going to give it a little bit more. I'm approaching the head, so I'm going to turn the boat pretty soon. 22.5 knots, 35 litres of fuel flow. This boat just feels super solid. Like, she's a really nice hull. I've driven so many European built boats. I'm going to turn to starboard, and as you probably can notice, we've got lots of lumpy water. We had stand-up waves today. We've had waves over the whole boat. This thing doesn't move. Like a lot of boats, when you're in big seas or even in choppy stuff like this, you can feel the boat flexing. You can hear movement and lots of stuff happening below. This boat is not doing that. It makes me feel, sorry bird, it makes me feel much more confident to run this boat kind of anywhere, and that's obviously the intention, but I'm just confirming that. So now we're going into 4 knots. We do have breeze on the bow, and I'm doing 18.6 knots at 2,800 RPM. I'm just varying that a little bit. The fuel flow is sitting on 39, and I'm going to increase that power. I'm going to bring us up to about 3,000 RPM. That looks like about 2.9 there. I see 43 litres consumption, 20.5 knots, and let's just really increase that speed now. So I'm above 3,000. Directional stability is great. She's just taken this like a champ. 3,200, 53 litres consumption, 25 and climbing. Let's give it some more. We're going to run out of room in a second. 26 and climbing, going into the chop, 3,500 RPM, bouncing through some waves, 73 litres and 27 knots, and climbing into 4 knots on tide. So we'll do that again, down swell, but what I'm going to do this time, I'm just going to run the boat at slow speed or trolling speed. Now, I'm not a fisherman, but I know many of you looking at this boat are, and so what we're going to do is just slow the boat down. Look at that, she really hooks in, so much control with this rudder. Look at that, I can come back onto my own wash, bounce through it. I love having this steering knob, gives you a lot of control. Your viz is great. I've had no inclination or wanting to sit down in these conditions, but if I wanted to, you know, a lot of space. So I think having the option to do a helm chair, which you do have on this boat, may be good for short asses like me. But let's back it right off. Okay. So the fuel consumption and range of 600 litres is really one of the takeaways for this for a lot of you guys. And if we're just sitting on 500 RPM, we've got a GPS speed, which is kind of irrelevant because we're going with the tide, but we're sipping 1 litre. 1 litre per hour. That is better than a sailing boat. Let's just nudge that up a little bit. That's incredible. That's really good. Let's just nudge that up just a tiny bit. Now, Jason, you were telling me one of your owners went fishing on this model boat. I'm not sure which hull number he has.
Hull number 5.
And how many days and how many miles and how much fuel?
He fished 9 days in total.
Yep.
Did over 750 nautical miles.
Yep.
And burnt just over 700 litres of diesel. So averaged about 77 litres a day.
Yeah.
Some days were big runs like north and south.
Yep.
Other days would run straight to the shelf, but the days were 10 to 12 hour days. Engine on in the morning,
Yep.
engine off in the afternoon.
So I see a market. Obviously this is a fisherman, but there's a whole adventure sector. You guys talk to me about the various things you want to do. This boat is trailerable. You could station it down south in the summer, up north in the winter. You could do all sorts of things, but just purely from a day boating function, spending the whole summer boating around Sydney Harbour or other locations. I can see Newport, Rhode Island, one of these in a blue hull, and a few little niceties which can be done. This thing would be awesome. Let's just, before we run out of runway, let's give it a wide open throttle down current. I'm just going to get up to cruising speed first. Revs there, 2400, 21 knots, call it, 33 litres. Let's just go for it. Okay, 30 knots and climbing, 31 knots, 73 litres consumption again, 31 and a half knots. I just feel confident to take on any of these waves. Obviously, inboard shaft drive diesel noise levels are higher. You should expect that. And let's just come off full throttle. And we're going to peel away to starboard in a second. 28 knots, 27 knots. Peeling to starboard. She's just eating this chop up, guys. We're dry, we're comfortable. The boat's solid. 24 knots. RPM around about that 3,000. Into the short little sharp ones just here. And then we'll do the trolling into the tide again. Okay, so I'll just bring it back to 500 RPM, into the tide. We're still consuming like 1 litre of diesel. We're doing about 1.5 knots into 4 knots of tide, and I'm just going to bump that up now. And let's get you to about 5 to 8 knots SOG, so we're going to need a little bit more revs for this one. But I note, okay, at 2.5 litres consumption, factoring in the tide, we're going to be doing between 6 to 8 knots. I'm just going to call that 8 knots because I'm getting 3 SOG right now. So that's sailing boat stuff. That's awesome. And then you can bump it up a little bit. So if you are that social boater, you can do in the range of 6 to 10 knots, and you're burning somewhere from 2.5 to 3.5 litres per hour. So you can go all summer. You can go all summer if you're going to be that way inclined. I know a lot of you are. You're not that interested in going fast, and you can just social boat on this thing the whole time, and when you want to cruise, you can. It's fantastic. So what we'll do, we'll just pop up the other end, and then what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to swap the helm. Jason, I'm going to get you to jump behind the helm, and I'm going to get you to back the boat up like you were hunting down a marlin, because that is pretty impressive. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a fisherman. I feel it's probably more worthwhile for Jason to do that and show you. But I drive a lot of boats. I've got 100 boat tests scheduled this year already, and I've already clocked up about 1,000. And this is actually going to be right up there with one of my favourite little machines for a number of reasons. You can trailer this, so storage. We're just opening up a whole massive area of operations, which always excites me when you go boating, because you can trailer it. But this hull is capable of some serious ocean cruising. She's got good fuel capacity. She's got great fuel flow. So you can just go places. Like, you really can go a lot of places. So your area of operations, your area of fun is going to be expanded on something like this. Whether you are a fisherman, whether you want to use this as a platform to go surfing, to go windsurfing, or whether you want to use it as a social boat, I'm going to really expand the possible demographic to quite a wide place on this one. So Jace, why don't you, I'll bring us off down to neutral. I'll get you to jump in and just talk us through some of those design elements and choices, because the prop that you chose for this boat and the shaft.
Yes, so we've got an Australian-made 19-inch full-blade propeller.
Yep.
We're currently testing between 19-inch pitch and 21-inch.
Yep.
21's the sweet spot. This one's running a 19, so we can get a few more knots top speed. The props run through a cylinder tunnel, not a cone, so we've got nice clean water. And we're running 2-inch duplex stainless steel shaft, machine couplings, everything's locally made.
But you could have got away with a lot smaller.
Yes, we could have got away with 1 3/4 inch, and we could have cut some corners, but I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it.
So what I noticed out in those big seas and here, the boats that do build right on spec, and what I mean by that is they calculate their market and their intended purpose, and they build it exactly to that purpose. As soon as I go and drive it in the ocean, the whole thing starts to flex.
Yeah.
Things start to make noises, and stuff breaks. Which is not the feeling I'm getting on this boat.
No. Well, this boat, my business partner Paul, he's a naval architect and also an AMSA surveyor. And we've actually built these boats to survey spec, and also built them to Class A offshore standards, which is applicable to 40-foot plus boats, not the trailer boat sector. Any accessible area where we can secondary bond, top deck to the hull, any joins, everything's bonded together, even the cabin external moulding and the internal moulding's all taped in and bonded. That's why you don't get those creaks and groans and movement out of everything.
And guys, just to press on this point, we're at the bottom of Australia here. Next stop, Tasmania, and if you point in that direction, it's essentially Southern Ocean and Antarctica. You grew up here.
Yes.
But the weather, I'm a Sydney boy, but I've come here enough to notice the weather goes from nice to frickin' awful in about 10 minutes.
Especially out in Bass Strait.
And that's a really gnarly stretch of water. So the culture here is all about having seriously solid built boats, and you're essentially carrying that on.
You want to feel safe. So we've just put best practices in to make this as safe a vessel as possible. You know, we're carrying 600 litres of diesel, not 600 litres of high octane petrol. I'm putting my family on this boat, so I know what I'd rather under my feet.
All right, enough talking. Let's reverse this thing up, and as if you were backing up on a fish. Let's see how she feels. So you've actually modified in the next hulls so water doesn't come in underneath?
Yeah, we've got a door jam on the transom door to eliminate water coming in. We only have a little bit of water coming in.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty palatable. So talk us through, you've got the rudder down.
Yeah, I've got the rudder kicked to port slightly.
Yep.
Because she wants the transverse thrust and walk to port. So if I kick the rudder to port, it'll walk to port. If I kick it to starboard, I can sort of straighten it up and then control it with the bow thruster a bit better.
But you've up-spec'd the bow thruster.
Yes, correct.
Yep. So we're doing that. We're moving at 7 knots with the tide there in reverse. Look at that. Fantastic. And so talk to us about the bow thruster tunnel design, which you factored in reversing into that design.
It was a bit of a grey area for us, so we thought we'd overspec the thruster from its power point of view, and then the way the tunnel is designed hydrodynamically is to catch water in reverse. So we've got a fairing on the front of it to sort of funnel water in. And when you want to use your thruster for, you know, navigating in close quarters, you're doing that at slow speed, so it doesn't matter, you're always going to have clean water on that, but we wanted to factor in getting as clean a water as possible while the boat's going astern.
Because what happens, and I've done this on plenty of boats, guys, particularly if you've got a stern thruster on your boat, you'll notice this. As soon as you get air in that tunnel, you'll hear the blades, the sound of the blades starts to change, and the effectiveness of the thruster just drops by about 40%.
Yes.
So that's why you've done that.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, 100%.
And it seems to be working pretty well.
Well, clearly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's go from this location, we'll duck around the corner and let's practice dropping the pick, because there's a bunch that I want to talk about up there, because you've done this to Australian standards.
Yes.
Not European standards, basically.
Yes.
Fit for purpose. Let's do it.
Anchor operation's easy on this boat. She's a drum windlass and she operates all from the helm. You just activate the power button up and down. There's actually no release of the safety because the drum is solid enough to hold the anchor in place as it is. So we deployed, dropped the 10 meters of chain, delta anchor. It held in what is quite obviously a windy day. G'day guys, my name's Dan Jones and I'm on Monect. This year alone, I'll be testing over 100 different boats. I've tested over 1,000 over the last 30 years. So if my experience can help you decide what boat is best for your boat life, contact me on Monect.
All right, we've got dead low tide here, so conditions aren't ideal. And we've got a pretty strong wind on our stern quarter. So I'm just going to take the boat out, reset everything, and just come in nice and slow. No rush. Thruster's handy for close quarters. Not the greatest boat ramp, Sereno boat ramp, but dead low tide here. We're going onto a bunker trailer, so it can help correct us if we come unstuck a little bit. If we just take it nice and slow, line her up, and we should be okay. Just knocking in and out of gear. I find with a bit of propulsion you get a bit more control of the boat, so it's nice to carry a little bit of speed, but not too much. Line up the anchor with the winch post. About to touch the trailer, knock it out of gear. Knock it in gear, come up ever so slightly. Hit the winch post. That's it, shut her down.
We then moved and returned to the boat ramp where we did some touch and goes. So the prop does pull to port, so if you're coming alongside you can utilise the bow thruster and then the prop warp to port to pull yourself in, and that's probably the easiest way. The other thing worth noting, the bow thruster, it's the next size up. Whilst this is a 26-foot boat, the thrust is sufficient for more like a 32-footer. So in the short space, Jason, the owner, was able to thrust the boat around 180 degrees and then leave the confined space with blow-on wind, and then line the boat up again for deployment back onto the trailer. So that was all pretty straightforward. He got it onto the trailer himself. It was all solo. So operation on this boat for solo operator, it's absolutely fine. So yeah, I was really impressed with that whole piece of kit. Like, the construction is fantastic. It's semi-custom. It is incredibly solid. It's a boat that you can drive in big waves and not notice any flex or any weird rattles whatsoever. Yeah, and it's just an unbelievable piece of kit for the size that feels so much bigger than it actually is. So I'm really, really impressed by this boat. So what I'm going to do now is pop up some other boats on the screen if you're interested in doing some comparisons. It's a little bit hard to do a direct comparison on my channel because so many boats I do these days are outboards in that size range, and it is a little bit unique to find a diesel inboard straight shaft. But I have driven a few, so I'll pop them up on the screen, at least one on the screen right now. Go and do your own research, see what you think. Thanks guys, bye.